Welcome to Rick's Scale Model Fix and part 3 of our Italeri 1/48 scale Hawk T1. So at the end of part 2 we had the Hawk more or less ready for decals, and that's where we pick up now. So let's crack on and get some markings on the jet and start to bring the project to life a little bit. So we have our chosen decals cut from the sheet, and we're just going to dip those in some warm water. I keep my water warm for decaling with an Amazon coffee cup warmer and a ceramic dish. Does the job, just keeps it about the right temperature. Using warm water just helps to release the decal adhesive and to make the markings move off the backing sheet quite quickly, and also makes them a little bit more supple, which is particularly important considering that the Hawk has got these raised vortex generators on the leading edge of the wing that the decals has to go over. So we'll have a look at how we do that. But in the meantime, I'm just adding the ejector seat warning triangles to the starboard side of the fuselage. Now I do gloss coat before decals, as contentious and a topic that might be, with discussions for and against. However, I do find by using Johnson's Clear, the old floor polish, that the decals do adhere better. I think the decal setting solutions actually react with the clear and help to sort of stick the decal down, if you like. So we're just removing the decal from the backing paper, and we're just going to plonk these in place where we think they're going to go. And then we're going to get our instructions sheet, and we're just going to place these permanently now with a drop of water just to lubricate those. So it always helps to have a landmark for these, so it's going to be the edge of the instrument combing. Which I think is probably about there. Making sure that they look straight. So with those few stencil markings on, we're just going to make sure everything's in the correct place, which we're happy with, and that everything is straight. And we're just going to apply some micro sol. And this is the bit where my preferred method of adding Johnson's Clear floor polish gloss coat works to an advantage, I would think, because the setting solution reacts now with the Johnson's Clear and helps the decals to adhere, rather than to a plain gloss surface or the plain painted surface. I think I've had experience in the past of decals lifting off quite easily, where I've never actually experienced it when I've used Johnson's Clear. So we'll just leave those for a second. So we don't want to be working on an area where we've just put the setting solutions, as it makes the decals soft and they're probably going to come off on our fingers. So we're just going to carry on working around the rear of the fuselage, and you might notice here at this point that there's some white stencil data. Now at first I thought that was an error on Italeri's part, so especially looking at the Hawk reference photos I've got of a similar aircraft. There were a number of these aircraft painted in this special scheme, and having done an internet search, it does appear that there is aircraft with white stencil markings as well as the red ones. So just check your references there. It does appear correct for XX246 though. So after quite a bit of work, he joined me, and we've now got the upper surface of our hawk completely decaled. That's not the end of the decaling process, we've got the underneath to do. So I'll crack on with that, and then we've got a multitude of other smaller jobs to complete before we start thinking about getting the airframe finished and the model completed. So work continues with our hawk. I've been working on the undercarriage units. These are really clumsy and crude, a bit clunky, full of mould seam lines that took an age to clean up, but nonetheless, once they've been treated carefully and sanded and painted, flowery models wash added, they do sort of look okay. Sort of number of parts there. The wheels themselves are quite nice, feature some quite nice hub detail. And the main gear, no, the nose gear unit, sorry, ready to be added to our waiting model. Also, the ejector seats have been worked on, and we've used the kit supplied decals and stencil data for these. Just painted them up roughly. They're not brilliant, but they're certainly okay. Sidewinder pylons and launch rails have their decals added, ready to go under the wings. Canopy mast up. The cockpit for the front seems a bit narrow, and the bird strike screen added to the inside of the main canopy. Not too happy with the way that sealant band came out, but nonetheless we'll move on. Probably look worse if I tried to correct it, and also pulled a bit of the paint off when I took the masking tape off. Speed brake has been painted, speed brake actuation arm and the undercarriage doors. These are in gloss, waiting for the skull and crossbone decals to go on that Italeri thoughtfully provided, cut and segmented. So the kit itself, or the aircraft itself, we've painted the jet can, and it's at this point I have to hold my hands up and say that I made a mistake. In part 2 you'll have seen that I was criticising Italeri for only having the Red Arrows version of the blanking plate above the jet pipe. Well, actually it is included in the kit, so that was prized off and assembled and added. So sorry for any misleading information there. Decal's been added. As we said, Italeri have segmented that for the undercarriage doors, which is great help. Heads up display is rather crude and basic, doesn't really want to fit, but looks a little big, but that's been added, as along with the nose light for the nose tip, and that's been added with PVA. And as you can see, it's just drying there, it's still got that white appearance going over there. Cockpit wise, the kit decals were employed. Don't know if you can catch the light in there. And the instrument combings have been painted and awaiting their turn to be finished off with a little bit of dry brushing before we move on. So we've added the nose gear leg, and that's just a simple push fit. It was found that the locating pin was extremely large for the socket, so it was just sanded down, pushed in. Just be careful, don't push down too hard, otherwise your nose gear bay will ping off into the inside of the fuselage. Just working on the main gear, and again the locating pins at the ends of the gear legs are way too thick for the receptacles and the wings, so they were just sanded again to narrow the diameter. We've added the little eyelid, or the small part of the flap. We added that first, followed by the strut and the main gear leg and the wheel. They have got flat spots, so just make sure they're at the bottom. Did however find that, as you can see from this one, that the pin on the locating tab here for the main gear wheel is too long, so it pushes the wheel out. So I've removed that on this one, and we're just in the process of adding this actuating arm. So it was found that with the socket on the arm itself in place, when we tried to add it, it pulled the gear leg in at an angle, so I'm just going to cut that off, and then we're just going to add this, and there's a little pin on the outside of the gear there, so we're just going to put a bit of liquid cement on there, and then the knack is to get this held in place at one end and gently move it down to secure it in place. And the roof of the main gear bay, just that, and again a bit more glue, I'll just secure that, bit of a nudge, and we're all good. So like we said, the wheels have flat spots. We've removed that axle, so we're going to use a slow setting type of glue here just to get this wheel in the correct location. The fit isn't brilliant, I must admit, but nonetheless we'll see what we can do. So we're using Tamiya white top. I'm just going to put some on the hub, secure the wheel in place, and then we're just going to line that up with the other one so that the flat spot is on the bottom. Quick check on the cutting mat to ensure everything's correct, which it is, and we'll leave the glue just to do its work. And you can see the difference between the pin on this gear leg and how far out it pushes the wheel to the one that's been removed. So I'll let that dry, and then I shall repeat the process on the other side. So we just need to add this little gear well flap. So to make it easier, I've just trimmed off the locating pin. I'm going to add this with a little bit of super glue. Don't worry about the paint work, you can always come back and just touch that in with some gloss black where you've removed the mating surface. We've got the wrong side. So we're just going to drop this in place and allow the super glue to bite. Quick check to make sure everything's lined up. So while the super glue's out, we're going to add these main gear doors, and then we're going to have to come in and just add our decals to make sure that the skull and crossbones line up in the correct position. So just checking. And that actually glued the landing gear legs in to the sockets, so we can just position them right up until the last moment. So we're just working on the undercarriage, and a few modifications are needed. With the way Italeri ask you to put the undercarriage doors on, they sit too low and at the wrong angle, so check the references that I've provided in the other stuff section of the website and you can see the correct location of those doors. And we just drop those pylons on. So all we need to do is add the skull and crossbones to the inside of those gear doors, and I need to add the nose gear bay doors. So we're in the final throes of the Hawk now, and we've added the ejector seats to the cockpit. The pitot tube, still worthy of noting that the PVA hasn't fully dried in that nose light. We've added the front undercarriage or nose undercarriage doors, and we've added those decals to the inside of the main gear doors. So all that's left for me to do is attach the canopy, but before we do that we're going to give it a coat of Guns GX 112 final gloss coat. So for this the gloves are going to go on, and we don't want to mark the surface of what will be the final coat on the kit. So there we go, that's the gloss coat on. This will take probably 15-20 minutes to just go off, and then we shall look at attaching the canopies. So we're just going to use a small amount of super glue just to attach these in the open position. So with the canopy glass attached, that completes our build of Italeri's 1/48 scale Hawk T1. So all that's left for me to do now is to go away and take the studio reveal photos. Overall, I'm going to give this a Rick scale model rating of 3 out of 5. I feel that the kit is just showing its age and is a bit overpriced for what you actually get in the box. However, the decal sheet is fantastic and it has to be a highlight of this release from Italeri. If you're like me and you just wanted a vehicle to show the markings, then this is the kit for you. However, I feel that the lack of detail in this 2008 tooling kit, especially in the cockpit, could do with some help from the aftermarket guys should you wish to portray a truly detailed model of the Hawk. I hope you've enjoyed following along the video build with me. It's not the best kit I've ever produced. So until next time, everyone, please look after yourselves, stay well and take care.